When a robot can drywall and paint, that's when I run. 10, 15 years from now, real estate will be like $100,000. Rents are $300 a month. This is risky. Like, I don't know what the future holds. I just know that we're a really good jockey. Are there any kids in the room? Like, I don't swear hardly ever, but I'm like, I'm gonna fucking solve this. Get a very clear picture on where you're headed. It doesn't actually matter. You can pivot, but you can't like pivot if you're not moving. You just name like 20 names. You go, this guy. And there are a lot of real estate syndicators, a lot of real estate educators, a lot of authors. He goes, none of them made it with their family intact. None of them. I'm in an industry that has a 0% success rate of surviving a marriage. So what are we gonna do different? I went home and I cried.
All right, guys, so we got the man, the myth, the year here, Mr. Turner. So he is taking time out to come and spend some time with you guys. So like I said before, think of some questions to be asking. And I know some of you guys have already been thinking about it and stewing on it for a bit. We're just going to be able to go. I'm just going to guide him on a few questions, and he's just going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly of what it takes to go from somebody that's, just like everybody else up and down the street to now all of a sudden you got $1 billion of assets under management, and now you're scaling like crazy. So we were just talking about freedom before, acquisition, acclimation, architecture. And so I want to start the conversation with freedom because you said something to me as we were riding up here that people have a misconception about what actually yields freedom.
Yeah, so anybody seen the movie Office Space? Like the Don't Take My Stapler? So like that movie had a profound impact on me in that like I watched that when I was in high school. Anybody else watch it around high school age? Well, like the same age, right? So like we watched it back then and like I was like, I never want that life. Like I never want that. And I rebelled against like corporate jargon and corporate life. And all of that just was like icky, like gross. I don't want that world. And then like, watching shows like The Office. Anybody heard of that one? Pretty decent. So like you watch it, you're like, oh, I don't want that thing. And so for years and years and years, I was like, no, I'm the anti-corporate guy. I don't do the corporate thing. I'm going to be a real estate investor. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Screw KPIs and forget, core values. I used to laugh at core values and say they're ridiculous and there's no reason for them. And I hated anything that had to do with corporate stuff. But what I have realized, to go to the end of the story, I've realized over the last 20 years that, Jocko Willink has that phrase, discipline equals freedom. It's like corporate equals freedom. And I hate that in my soul, but at some level it's true. And what I mean by that is not like, it's Hawaiian Shirt Friday and don't touch my stapler, but like the systems and the processes and the KPIs and the core values, that is actually what it takes to achieve freedom. Because ultimately, if you want freedom in your business, how many of you are real estate people, real estate investors of some kind? How many of you are other entrepreneurs of some kind? How many of you have no idea why you're here at all? A few of you. Good. Like, either way, if you want one of those two things, if you want to get out of it, like get freedom, and we all know this intuitively, like, right? Like, if we want freedom, we don't want to have to work that job or that business forever. We have to scale, right? At some level, you have to scale. You have to go to a point where you can make enough money to get out. You can either scale up or you can scale out, but either one requires you to scale and get bigger. Well, how do you scale? People, processes, systems, KPIs. And so I've built, probably 20 businesses in my life, and most of them have failed. Just been colossal failures over and over and over. Even ones that I run today. I've got stuff today that's just not working. I have a group very much like this, and I'm shutting it down. Like we have our last meeting next month. I got a failure, but it was a lot of lessons learned. And why? Like when I look at almost every single failure, maybe not even almost, every single failure is because I just didn't run it like a business. I wasn't a good enough business leader. So anyway, that's why I'm obsessed today in like, how do I become a better leader, a better business owner, and still wear, flip-flops and, go to, Mexico on a whim? Because like, there is a way to be both corporate or businessy and also have a life and have a soul. And that's what I'm trying to meld those two together right now. That's what's been fresh in my mind.
So we just talked about the power of stories that we tell ourselves. And so thankfully, Brandon was sitting next to me when we were in the Tony Robbins event where he brought up that topic of state story strategy. And there's a story that you were telling yourself when you originally created the vivid vision for Open Door Capital about what you wanted it to be. So if you can share that original vision with them and now describe how it's changed as you've evolved and been like, okay, cool. So we wanted to be this ragtag group that's like out surfing and having a good time. How do you maintain that along with what you've actually learned through the process of scale now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the story was I read a book called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. Anybody read that one? Yeah, super good book.
He's coming to speak to you guys, by the way.
That's awesome. He's legit. So I read this book, Vivid Vision. It was basically this idea of like have a very clear picture, like very clear, like artistic picture, and there's different formats for it, but where you're headed in the future, 3 years in the future. So I read this book, And I had been floating for a long time. Like, I mean, I was on the BiggerPockets podcast. I was buying like one rental house a year, maybe flipping one house, like just pretty, like just coasting for years. And the reason I was coasting is because I just didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what, like, should I go into apartments or should I go and build this business or do a mentorship? I don't know. There's a lot of things I could do. And so because there were so many options, I just did nothing for years or very little. And I was on stage at an event and I was speaking to a bunch of people. And I realized the only reason I was there is because I could sell tickets to the event. It was like the hot girl, you know, who like has no value in life, but just is hot. And she gets into every party and yeah. I was like, oh shit, I'm the hot girl. And I was like, I have no value at all. So like, that doesn't feel good, right? So like, I want to be the hot girl with skills. So I was like, so I read this book, Vivid Vision, on the flight home. And I was like, I am going to pick something by the time I land on this, like when we took off from Denver, landed in Maui, I'm going to pick a thing and I'm going to go with it. And so I did. I said, I'm going to do mobile home parks and I'm going to have 1,000 pads, like 1,000 units. And I'm going to have 5 team members and I'm going to give away a bunch of money to charity. And I'm going to do a mastermind in Maui. And I just started writing all the things that I wanted to do. And I wrote it into a newspaper article written 3 years in the future. But it was called The $50 Million Surfers. It said how a small team of adventure seekers built a real estate empire and blah, 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 blah. And we had flip-flops and board shorts and we didn't do corporate stuff. And so that was the story, again, was like we were very casual, just figuring it out. But we landed. I had this vision written. I went and told my buddy Ryan. I was like, this is what I'm going to build. And he goes, dude, I love that. I want to be a part of it. And that, like, those words changed my life. Ryan and I built it together. And from there, we just, you know, we didn't buy $50 million of real estate in that 3-year time period to about $300 million. And then we went on to buy now $1 billion. And none of that would have been possible without the vision and without that story that we had to tell ourselves, like, this is where we're headed. So, like, story, and I don't think Tony brought this up, maybe you did, but, like, the idea of, like, story works both ways. There's, like, your past story, right? The story we tell ourselves about the situation we're in and why we're here and what we're doing. And we can tell a positive or negative story. And then there's a story of where you're going. And so I just told a really cool story. And everybody I showed that story to was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to be in that. It's, I guess, encouragement for you. If there's one thing you can, you know, take from this is like, get a very clear picture on where you're headed. It doesn't actually matter, right? It doesn't, who cares? Like, you're like, well, I don't know if I want to do this. It doesn't matter. You can pivot, but you can't pivot if you're not moving. That makes sense? Like, if you're riding a bicycle, you can't really turn. If you're just like sitting still, you just fall over. So just start going and say, that's where we're going. And then everyone's like, oh, cool, that's where he's going, cool. And then everyone follows behind you because the world is absolutely desperate for leaders. Have you noticed that? Like when there's a crisis or even when there's just like normal life, like when somebody gets up and just says, hey, we're doing this, everyone's like, okay, great. Like, you know, you have a group of friends and everyone's like, well, where do you want to go to dinner? Like, you just love that guy who's like, hey, we're going to Olive Garden. And you're like, okay. And nobody really...
Unlimited breadsticks!
Yeah, unlimited. But nobody likes the Olive Garden, but we're just all excited that some guy chose, and now we don't have to sit there and look around for 15 minutes trying to... yeah, who cares, right? There's a quote from Gino Wickman, who wrote the book Traction, which is like the Bible for making your business a business. But Traction, he said, is often more important that you decide than what you decide. And so I think that all the time. It's like, it doesn't actually matter. None of this matters. We're just making this up. Like, humans are designed for like picking berries and having sex and raising kids. Everything else we just make up and none of it matters, right? Like, none of this matters. So it's like, who cares if you're going to build $1 million business or $1 billion one, or you're going to have 12 employees or 2? It does not matter. What matters is that you tell a story that fires you up in the morning and you get up and you go and work it and that inspires other people around you.
What do you think is the difference between the 99.8% of people that say, I want to build $1 billion thing versus the 0.02% that actually do? Because a lot of people could be sitting in this room or listening to this or watching this and say, I want to build $1 billion portfolio, but they won't. Most people won't. So what do you think is the difference? Because, like, we're not super gifted. There's nothing special or crazy about us. Like, we're just normal humans. So what do you think is the difference between what you did and what majority of people do that's wrong?
Yeah, I'll answer that in a story. We all like stories, right? So, all right. So, anybody been to Maui? All right, Maui's great. Have anybody been to Maui in like December, January, February? You know, what goes on in January, February in Maui that's amazing? Anybody know?
Podcast with Brandon Turner.
What is it? Okay, there's a good surf. The whales. So I'm going to tell a little whale story. So the whales are there. These big humpback whales are beautiful and amazing. They just hang out in front of Maui, like all the time. February is the best month to go to Maui if you're ready to go because the whales are the most then. So we will get on a paddle board and we will paddle out about a mile into the ocean. just right out with the paddleboard. And then, okay, so here's the story. We get up, it's like 6 a.m., it's early, I don't want to get up. We get out, we drive down, we load up our boards, the big paddle boards. It's heavy, it's hard, you put them on the truck, you drive down there, you look out there for a while, you try to see a whale really far away. You finally see one, you're like, all right, we're going. So you get in the water, you start paddling towards it, or really like in front of it where it's going. You try to get there, you never get that whale. That whale's gone. And then you see another one on the horizon, you paddle to that one, and you get there, and then that whale's gone. And you do it again, and you're out there for about 3 hours. But I've done this now probably 25, 30 times, I'm guessing in the last 5 years of doing this. And I have never not got a close encounter with a whale. Every single time I get a close encounter with a whale, like you to me, like we're that close to a whale. I've had them like jump up. It's wild. So the reason I tell that story is seeing, like, what are the odds of having a whale jump up right in front of you or pop out? That's absurd. That's 1 in a million. So why does it happen every single time? Because I got up at 6 a.m., I put a board on my truck, I drove down to the beach, I watched for it, I went out there was no whale, I went to a different spot, no whale, went to a different spot, no whale, went to a different spot, no whale, and then finally I get the whale. So it's that quote from, I don't know, a million different presidents have been attributed, but the idea of like luck and preparation, right? Like I was completely lucky to see the whale, but I'm lucky every single time. So to go back to your question, why do some people find that success and actually do it when the majority of people don't? The majority of people give up at the alarm clock, and 80% of the people, their alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. They're like, I'm not going to do it. And then out of the remaining 80% of them give up when it goes down to like, oh, I got to lift the board on my truck. They give up. And then the 20% of the rest get down to the water and they don't see any whales right away, so they give up. And so it's just a funnel that loses people at every single step. And so the ones who make it, it is luck. It is almost pure luck that you build a successful business in almost every way, except for the fact that if you just keep doing it, eventually you get lucky. Does that make sense? All right. That's what I think about. Like, that's what sets people apart. Like Josh Dorkin, who founded BiggerPockets. You guys know BiggerPockets? So Josh Dorkin was the founder of BiggerPockets. I was not. A lot of people think I was. Josh I always say this for years. I've said it to his face. This is not like a secret thing. He's not actually a great entrepreneur. He built a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's not a great entrepreneur. He didn't go to business school. He kind of learned systems as we built it. Today, he doesn't do any business whatsoever. So why did he build a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Because he just didn't give up. Like, he just literally just didn't give up. And for years and years and years, BiggerPockets is 20 years old. And so if you don't give up on your dream and just try to get a little bit better every year for 20 years, it's almost impossible not to see the whale, not to have the $1 million business or the multi-million-dollar business.
Well, first off, you made a bunch of excellent points there about the 6 a.m., 8 a.m. wake up, because there's so many distractions today. So who here is like now seen more than ever, like everybody, you can learn mobile home, you can learn multifamily, you can learn apartments. I mean, we do a lot of them here in Action Academy. So you see like distractions, right? Distractions are the number one thing. So it's a huge pro, it's an advantage. But I'll also argue that it's the number one way that you guys can advance and win. And I would actually argue that it's never been easier to win than now, because it's so damn easy to be distracted. Yeah. Nobody else is going to actually stick it out. Like Action Academy now, this has been my one thing for 3 years. Like, this is it. It's my one thing. And now you guys are seeing the reward of it 3 years deep. And then so that's 10 years deep, then 20 years deep, then 30 years deep. If you just do one thing for 10 years, you're going to be shocked at how genius you look to the outside world. So anything else that you would say maybe about your journey, if you could go back to you, maybe when you were beginning this part, especially like in the beginning of Open Door Capital, and you guys were doing the ragtag surfing thing, maybe a piece of advice that you would offer that you didn't know before, but you know now.
Yeah, I'll pick on Ryan Murdoch a little bit. I mentioned Ryan. He's the guy. I got off the plane. I showed Ryan my vision. I said, this is where I'm going. He's like, dude, I want to be a part of it. And we built it together. I made him. So I'll give you a couple lessons actually in the beginning. One, I put Ryan, I said, well, why don't you take a third? I'll take a third. And then we had this third buddy, and we're like, you take a third. We'll go one third, one third, one third. We'll just build this business. And then we built it, and immediately, like within a week, we started this company. The one guy was very clearly not going to work out. I mean, he was a great guy, but he was just super busy, didn't actually care about mobile home parks. And I was like, oh, dang, I just gave him a third of my company. And I'm like, well, that's awkward. And so like I had to like claw that back from him, and then I had to bring in more people, and I had to give them equity. And I gave away most of my company early on, and I have had to claw back. Today, I only own 42% of Open Door Capital, which is not a big deal to me. Like, I like that my team, I've got 11, 12 people all have equity, and they own, overall, they own more than half the company. that worked out well. But the lesson I learned there is in correlation to what Josh did with me at BiggerPockets. Like, I was like the face of BiggerPockets. A lot of people think I started BiggerPockets. Like, I was the first person on board, the first employee, the first, like everything there. I was the lead sales guy. I only owned 2% of BiggerPockets. People are probably shocked by that. Like, the 2% was all I had. And when Josh gave me that, I didn't know if that was good or bad at the time. I was like, well, it feels kind of small. Like, does that feel kind of small? Unless it's a $1 trillion company, right? Then it's 2% a lot. So here's the point I'm going to get at here. I offered 30%, 33% to Ryan because I thought I had $1 million business. Josh offered 2% to me because he knew he had $1 billion business. Goes back to, is Josh a great entrepreneur? I mean, not by like the business book standard necessarily, but because he had a vision and he stuck with it, 2% was incredibly generous to offer one person in your company because he just thought he had $1 billion thing. So the amount of equity you give to an employee or to a partner is in inverse correlation to how successful you think you're going to be. That's what I learned, is that I did not have a big enough vision, and therefore I thought 30% was great. Because if we, I never said it out loud, I never even thought it, but that my inside or my subconscious believed I had a small company. If I knew I was going to have $1 billion of real estate, I probably would have, made that a little bit smaller. And I've since done that. And now when I give people, I might give people 2% because I'm trying to have a bigger vision. So that was a big lesson learned right there. The second one is also related to Ryan, is that Ryan was my tenant who lived in my extra unit. I have an ADU. I had one at my property. So he lived there. We were friends. We were good buddies. We hung out all the time. We surfed together all the time. And he was a real estate guy. He had done dozens of deals. And so obviously he should be the CEO of my future $1 billion company, right? Because he was there. He had a pulse. He knew how to surf.
He had flip-flops?
Yeah, he had flip-flops. He lived in my backyard. What other qualifications would a CEO need?
Sounds like a homeless man in Austin. I've got the same guy.
Yeah,
Shout out, Ryan.
Exactly. So that was the lesson. The lesson I learned there is that, and I've made this mistake over and over and over and over and over. Even recently, I've made this, is that I hire people that I like, that I want to hang out with, that are cool, that are like me, that we get along well, that have some experience, because I have to justify it. I'm like, I mean, Ryan's got experience. He would be great at it. Never mind that he would hate that. When I think of Ryan, now, I mean, he did it for 2 years and he hated every second of it. Now he's on the board. He loves that. He loves advising. He loves helping out where needed. He's actually living at one of the apartment complexes right now we have in Austin, just to try to be boots on the ground, try to help improve things. But he hated being in charge, the guy. Because what does a CEO or a COO do? They're office space, right? They're the ones having the TPS reports filled out every day and all that stuff. And so he wanted to be like me. Me and him are the same guy. We want to be the visionary. We want to have fun. We want to surf. We want to make other people do all the work. And so the lesson learned is if you're going to hire someone, don't hire the convenient guy or the convenient lady. Right? Hire the best. Did you really put in the work needed to hire the best person? If you guys want a quick resource, there's no opt-in or anything, so I'm not stealing your information. But write down the URL, abetterlife.com/hiring. Just abetterlife.com/hiring. I actually built this as out of frustration over every time I hire someone, I'm not doing the work I know I should do to really define who it is I need to hire. And so I was like, let me just think, what would be the perfect way to sharpen my axe for 4 hours before I go and chop down a tree? So it's a 17-page fill-in-the-blank form, at least maybe 14 pages, fill in the blank of what is the problem you're trying to solve for? Let's start there. And then you define that problem. And then it's okay, well, what is the actual role you think it's going to be here? What would the title be? What's the salary? What are expectations? What skills do they need to have? What culture do they need to have? And it just goes on and on and on. All the things you should do, but none of us actually do because we're not HR managers, right? My HR lady probably does that, I assume, but I don't. I just hire the guy that I like. So anyway, take that document if you want. You can fill the whole thing out when you're going to go hire someone or when you have a frustration. Take that whole thing, just put it in the ChatGPT and say, hey, write me a job description for Indeed. And it'll take what you wanted, put it into Indeed, and you'll have a really cool job description. But that's what I should have done with Ryan and honestly, almost every business I ever built. I love this story because this is my life in every way. You're on an island. It's called Reality Island. And you want to get over to Success Island. Call it Financial Freedom Island. Call it Wealth Island. Call it, play video games all day long and do whatever you want all day and you have all the money you need island. Whatever that like dream of yours is, your ideal life down the road, that's another island. You have to get there. In this imaginary world, there are no planes, there are no boats. There's one way you can get there, and that is you got to build a bridge. So you build the bridge and you go start building it and you start constructing this bridge, you get over there. But what happens to almost every single entrepreneur in the entire world is we start building a second bridge, because building bridges is actually a lot of fun, right? It's really fun to be like, oh, we're going to build this bridge. It's going to be metal, and it's going to be cool, and it's going to twist a little bit at the end. It's going to be great. So we build another bridge. And then we build a third bridge, because that other bridge just gets kind of routine. It's like, another day of building a bridge. I'll build this one. And before you know it, you got 30 bridges that you're building. And you work a little bit on this one, a little bit on that one, a little bit on that one, a little bit on that one. And it just takes you 30 times longer to reach Success Island. Where the reality is, if you focused all your efforts on one bridge, you said, I will build this bridge until I reach that island, you get to Success Island. Then guess what? Now you have enough money to hire other people to build your bridges for you. So then you can have a lot of fun, and you can actually go out and be the, crazy ADHD brain that most of us are, and build 20 bridges, because you built the one. You got to get there first. And I think one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is they don't finish the bridge. They don't finish the one bridge, and it's simply because they get bored. And I'm the same way. I just get real bored. I have to do so many things at once. And we justify it with quotes like, the average millionaire has 7 income streams. Well, yeah, but they didn't get there by 7 income streams. They got there by 1. Oh, dude, what's up? They didn't get there by
bridge.
Yeah. Building their bridge. Yeah. God, one bridge. So they get there by 1, and then they can go build other assets and other businesses and other things, because that's what they do. David Green, who was my co-host on my podcast for years and like my best friend in the whole world, he had a great little add-on to this where he said, because he's like the metaphor analogy guy, he's like, you can build one bridge, but you can also add lanes to your bridge. And so, for example, his idea was, okay, he is the real estate guy. He was like, I'm a real estate guy. I'm going to make that my brand. I'm going to make that my image. But I can add a lane on there as a mortgage company. Now, it does take longer because your bridge is getting bigger, so it takes longer to build. It's kind of like building 2 bridges, but you're sharing a lot of resources because it's not an entirely new bridge. And so today, it's almost like my bridge, when I think about this, actually, Tony helped with this a lot. Tony's like, what business are you in? And I thought, well, I'm in real estate investing. And he's like, what business are you really in? And it's like, oh, well, I mean, I'm in the business of being a face, an influencer. I hate that word, but an influencer, because that's actually what enables the real estate to work. He's like, no, what are you really in? I'm like, I'm in the business of empowering people to achieve their goals and reach financial freedom, and I have to show them and demonstrate that that's possible and they can live this epic, better life. And it's like, oh, that's the business I'm in. Okay, well, if that is my business, if that's the thing that fires me up, well, then there's different lanes to that bridge. And so I can be, my Instagram is a lane, but also I have a mortgage company and I have a couple different businesses. And again, it's not ideal, but if you're going to build multiple bridges, if you just are so ADHD, you cannot not build multiple bridges. Just build multiple lanes instead.
Beautiful.
If you have to, otherwise don't.
Exactly. How many in here have kids? Okay, so so I do not have kids. I was just doing that. At least not that I know of. Okay, so about half the room here. So something that I find interesting, like as a single guy that has built my companies as a single guy, I actually got this from Ryan Pineda, where he said, hey man, like you think that you being single and having all the time in the world to build these companies is going to serve you. He's like, it's actually not. Because I look at somebody like Ryan, I'm like, okay, you have young kids. How the hell do you have time to build a business competing against me? And he's like, because I am forced to build systems. Like I'm forced to actually be a business owner because I don't have the luxury of having all of my time. So I've spoken to a couple of you guys and you're like, in Action Academy and in the world in general, is like, I just don't have time. I'm with my family, I'm working my job. How am I supposed to find time to do this real estate thing, to do this business thing on the side? So I'm curious, how has your relationship with like Heather, your family, and your time management evolved as you've grown and scaled this? Because you've scaled all of this with children, with a family. Yeah, great question. And it is. Having the constraint forces you to be better, for sure. You're like, I'm constrained, therefore I have to be more efficient. I have to use my mornings well. I can't scroll TikTok for an hour, because that's an hour that I'm either taking from my business or taking from my kids. So by the very nature of it, I'm way more dialed.
what I've done typically is I try to set up very clear like rules, I guess you could say, that the family can understand. So like I don't work after 5 p.m. I don't work before 8 a.m. And those constraints make it so I can just go way faster. Actually, a great story. I love this story. I was in a car wreck one time. I mean, I was going along just normal, and I got T-boned. Somebody going full speed, bam, into the side. And I look up, and it's like a 4-year-old girl just laughing, and she drives away and hits somebody else. And I go after her, and I nail her also. Like, it's because we were playing, bumper cars at the mall, right? And so I love that story. Compare that to a go-kart track. You ever been an indoor go-kart track or outdoor one? But like you're whipping around going, those things go so quick today. Like they're way faster than we were kids. Right? We were kids, we're like, put. Now like they go, right? So why does a go-kart track allow you to go 50 miles an hour and bumper cars don't? Because bumper cars don't have any like boundaries. There's no constraints on a bumper car. So to be safe, you have to go very, very slow. It's just random and chaotic. So when I think of like constraints, they're a good thing. They allow you to go faster. Otherwise, you're just chaos. Otherwise, you're playing bumper cars, and that's fun, but you're not going to be as dialed as when you have those constraints. Now, if you don't have kids, you can add in other constraints in your life. But if you're just like, oh yeah, I just work from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I just work on the weekends, I just work when I want to, that's fine, that's cool, and maybe you'll get a lot done. But if you start being more efficient, like this is when I have to get this done, and I will do it during this time period, and I will accomplish this by next Thursday, even though I know I could do it in the next 6 months, I'm going to give myself constraints and then force me to do that. It's more like adding, go-kart tracks, so now you can go super fast. So yeah, having the kids is like having constraints, and that's worked out really, really well. Not that I'm perfect at it in any way. I mean, you guys know who are parents. It's hard because my brain doesn't shut off when the clock strikes 5, right? Like it's like I'm sitting there on the couch, I'm just like zoned out, and I'm thinking about some complex problem. My kid's like, "What do you think, Dad?" I'm like, "I love it." And then they like start crying. And I'm like, "Oh, what did I say? I don't know." So like it is hard to be present. The best tip I have for that, I read from the book, Brendan Burchard. It was a habits book, High Performance Habits, Brendan Burchard. I don't remember much of that book. I remember I liked it, but I remember one thing in that he said he had a name for it, but basically a physical thing that he does every day when he walks in the house. And I think his was hitting the door. And so I do that every time I walk in my house and I hit the door with my hand. And that is like a physical reminder that I am now home and I'm entering a new realm. And it's just something, and I hit it like, decently hard, like bam. And I'm like, now I'm home. It's a different person. This is a different persona. I'm going to leave everything else outside. And like that act of hitting the door is like, I'm sticking all my problems here. Again, not perfect, but that little tip has helped me a lot. Is like, okay, now I'm present. Now I'm home. And then, as soon as I get on my phone and I check my email, then I'm just back outside again, like in my head. But that's what I try to do. So that's helped me a lot.
So we're talking a lot about integrations in different stages of your life, and you've gone from being somebody that had, like you said, you were invited to these stages and you felt with the imposter syndrome of being on the stage. You're like, I'm the hot girl at the freaking bar with a beard. Very Grays Harbor, Washington.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, to be the hot girl with the beard. To go from that to then you started scaling. Now you've really scaled, and now every single play that you make is probably like an 8 to 9 figure play. Otherwise, you're not even going to make the play. I'm curious, so Jason, mindset coach that he also used to work with, he taught me one thing that I really took to heart, which was how integration works is like you have like success on this axis and you have time on this axis. And you like most people grow like this, like low and slow. But if you grow fast like this, you have to integrate 10 years worth of growth within that like 2 months or 10-month period. So you can't just grow at like a rocket ship without experiencing and integrating those problems associated with it and those new identities. Can you share like kind of each one of those milestones as you leveled up to the 10x, 100x version of you and how you integrated that?
Sure. Yeah. So, I started, I started doing real estate. So like buying a house hacking it, living in one bedroom, renting out the others to buddies. Then I bought a duplex and like, small real estate. Like I could handle that. I bought at one point though, I had, I don't know, maybe half a dozen properties. I was flipping a couple houses a year. And then some older couple offered me their 24 unit apartment building. Like that's a big jump up to suddenly owning a commercial property. And so that was a big jump where I had to like learn how to go there. But I figured it out. and we made a lot of mistakes, screwed up a lot of stuff, made some money. It's actually kind of a cool story in that it's a weird story, but I'll share it real quick. The church I went to at the time was a little church out there in Washington. The pastor of the church ended up hooking up with the youth leader, who was a woman, and she was also the leader led music at the church. Ended up hooking up, leaving their spouses and leaving. Now, if you're church people, that destroys a church. Like it doesn't get much worse than that. But yeah, it was pretty rough.
Our God is an awesome God, He reigns.
Yeah, rough experience. But what was cool about that is right before that happened, within a few weeks, I had closed on that apartment complex from a couple I had met at that church. And what was just cool in that process is the apartment complex allowed me to quit my job and be low level financially free. I could pay my bills. And when I look back on that, I think that was an interesting time in that it's I'm a Christian guy, so I'm God saw that was coming and then lined up me to step in as the worship leader and the youth pastor of that church for the next decade. And I got to do it volunteer wise, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm saying that was just a cool moving things around, knowing that was coming. And so I ended up doing that, and my buddy Jed ended up becoming the pastor of a church. So I did that for a decade out there, and that was a huge learning curve. How do you deal with a bunch of kids? Anybody have middle schoolers? They're aliens. They're weird creatures, and they smell bad, and they have a weird sense of humor. And I became the leader of 30 of them at a church. So that was sometimes you're just forced to level up and forced to jump into a situation, and you're all right, I'm gonna figure that out. Actually, that came another time I had to level up. I had now that property. I started blogging online. I started just writing what I was doing, teaching. I had a website called realestateinyour20s.com. Which, side note, I'm a big believer. I heard this from a guy named Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. I don't know if you guys know Pat Flynn. I heard this from him. He taught me very early on when you're going to build a brand, you don't want to be one thing. You want to be the cross point of two things. And so what he meant by that is you could just go out there and try to build a brand as a real estate guy. But there's a lot of them out there. But there's who's the real estate for 20-year-olds or people in their 20s? Didn't exist. I was I want to be that guy. So I became that guy. If you were 25 and you stumbled across somebody online who was teaching real estate investing to people in their 20s, would you follow them? Of course you would. You'd be yeah, that's my guy, because it's so specific, right? I know people who are I'm the doctor real estate investor person, or I'm the how to raise private money for construction workers. You find that cross point of two niches. Eventually you can go broader, and I'm broad today. But even today you could almost say, you guys know Grant Cardone. Grant and I do the same thing. He's bigger than I am. His company's worth 3 times what mine is. But we do the exact same thing. We have a very different vibe, don't we? Even though, and I don't even know what that necessarily is, but I'm we're both real estate, and then he's I don't know if it's fancy cars and Rolexes. Or you can say Ryan Pineda, same way. I love Ryan, but Ryan's a flashier, more just a different vibe. And so I'm the cross point of real estate and lifestyle. Is maybe kind of what I'm trying to be. And so if you're trying to build a brand, this side point, I'll bring it back. If you're trying to build a brand, try to build it between two niches. You don't want to go too crazy, I'm the teacher who has one eye. It's that there's not a lot of them out there. But yeah, have you guys ever read that article, 1,000 True Fans? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, you guys should all Google this. This was so good. This is probably 20 years old, maybe 30 years old now, and it was early internet. And this guy, I don't remember who wrote it. He's famous. It was reprinted in one of Tim Ferriss's books, but the guy who wrote it basically said, you don't need 1 million followers. You need 1,000 true fans. If you had 1,000 people who gave you $100 a year, it's $100,000. That's wild. And you could be the most obscure thing. You could be a teacher who has one eye, and there probably are 1,000 of them out there. And if you teach teachers who have one eye how to grow a second eye, you're going to be the most popular person in that niche, and they're all going to follow you. So anyway, real estate in your 20s. So I start blogging there. Had no idea, no idea what I'm doing at all. I did not own a computer, by the way, before that. I had zero skills. In high school, I played with computers a little bit, but no skills in this whatsoever. Didn't know how to write, didn't know how to blog, didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I read 4-hour work week, and I really wanted to make some kind of lifestyle business. And so in that process, I met Josh Dorkin, and he who had BiggerPockets, which was was the biggest site for real estate investors at the time, and it still is. And he wrote on his Facebook, I'm looking for someone to help me edit blog posts and kind of help run the site. And I was like, I can do that. And so I offered. I was like, I'll do that. I'll do it for free. So I jumped in there, and he's like, okay. I didn't tell him that I didn't know how to write or edit. I didn't know how to spell there, and there. I didn't know how to do anything whatsoever that he was hiring me for. I was just free for a while. Eventually, he started paying me. So, again, lesson of, like, again, get into a new thing. Like, I was trying to figure out a new thing. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was just like super confident that I'd be able to figure it out. And the reason I was so successful at BiggerPockets is because I was continually learning, because I thought of it as my own company. Even today, I think of it as like my company. It's not my company, but I think of that. That's a rare thing. Again, I don't want to pat myself on the back for that, but if you can hire somebody who like thinks of their company as their own, and if you have to give them a little equity for that, it is absolutely game changing. Walker Meadows, who's now the CEO of Open Door Capital, he runs my whole entire company. He's 29, I think. Maybe he's 30 now. Like, I hired him when he was 24. He's phenomenal, but it's because he thinks it's his company. I haven't told him that it's not. I mean, he's got some equity, but he fully believes that it's like, it is all on him, and he works till 2 a.m. if he has to. He takes full ownership, full control. So that's the reason I was so successful at BiggerPockets, is like, I just got in there and I said, I'm going to be the absolute best at this. I'm going to figure it out. So podcasting, we figured it out. Sales on webinars, we figured it out. And I would self-learn all the time, even though Josh never paid me to. In fact, there was even a moment where I was, reading the 4-hour work week, and I'm like, I need a virtual assistant to help me run my stuff. And Josh was like, no, you don't get it. I don't have an assistant. You don't get an assistant. I was like, I know, but I'm doing all the work. And he's like, no, you don't get an assistant. I'm like, it's like $300 a month. He's like, no, you don't get an assistant. Like, fine. So I went and hired myself an assistant to work at BiggerPockets on my dime, because it was my company. And so, like, you do it because I knew it was going to be important for me to get out of the mundane of like checking my email 20 times a day and responding to comments. I built the system, actually. Maybe some of you were the recipient of it. Every single new member for about 5 years that joined BiggerPockets and went in the forums and introduced themselves, I wrote a really nice personal message to you. And it was like, everyone was unique, and it was very nice. This is before AI. Today, AI could do this. But what I did is I went and had my VA. I wrote 20 first sentences that could be the first sentence of a post, 20 second sentences, 23rd and 24th sentences. And I said, there, you now have like 1,000 combinations. Just pick from those and just post for me. And no one ever knew. And so, like, all of a sudden, it saved me like 20 hours a week of me not having to go and post 50 times a day. Welcome to the forums. Glad to have you here. And I had to pay for it on my own dime. But because of that, now I could spend more time on higher dollar per hour stuff, like figuring out webinars. Anyway, this is a long story. But anyway, so I got good at that. I got good at the webinar thing. I got good at that. I became an intrapreneur, which is a really valuable thing. I don't think it's talked about enough. An intrapreneur means an entrepreneur that works inside another company. Walker is really an entrepreneur, right? He owns the company. He has the equity. He makes more money the more the company grows. And so he doesn't have to go build a side business. Because you probably heard this quote before, it's not mine, but I made my dream so big that his fit inside of it. The same thing with Megan, who runs First Deal. Like, I made the dream of First Deal. First Deal is like a newbie training program. I made it so big, this massive vision of where we're going, that she doesn't have to build a bunch of side businesses. She can do that. Matt Buck, he's the head of my Better Life Tribe. I made the vision so big that he would fit inside of it. So when you have a big enough vision, you can get a really amazing people and have their vision of what they want for their life and how they want to operate fit within it, and then everybody wins, which is pretty cool. That's what Josh did for me. He allowed me to build my vision inside BiggerPockets. So the rest of it you kind of know. I mean, during BiggerPockets years, I knew that time was coming to an end. And so I started planning the next thing. I think a lot of people make this mistake, is that whether they're trying to build a company, they sell it. I mean, I've got a ton of friends who have built companies, sold them, and then got massively depressed. I mean, you know anybody like that? Why? Because they lose their identity. Maybe somebody knows that's happened to you. It's like you sell a company, or even you just get fired. You were in a career for a long time. You get fired, and it's like, oh, shoot, who am I now without that? And that's really hard for people. It was hard for Josh when he sold BiggerPockets. BiggerPockets sold years ago. When Josh sold BP, he didn't know what to do for years and years and years. The thing that I did is I built, to mix metaphors or use the same metaphors earlier, but in a different way, I built a bridge to the next identity before I left the first one. And that was really helpful. So when I was doing my real estate, I was still doing that while I built BiggerPockets. Then when I was doing BiggerPockets, I built the commercial real estate business at the same time. So then when I left BiggerPockets, I was already transitioned to the new identity of, oh, I'm a real estate investor. I'm a commercial real estate investor. And then now I still do the commercial real estate thing, but now I'm back into the education side doing this first deal program. And so I always like am thinking like, where am I at today? It's like Tony says, like build a business build a business you need today and build a business that's needed tomorrow. You kind of are doing both. And so, yeah, those are some inflection points anyway. That's probably way longer than you wanted.
I think everybody give a round of applause. Like, okay,
thank you.
We need some energy. All right, cool. Two guys up here talking. We need some energy. All right, beautiful. And what you were talking about brand was really good. My favorite quote from Naval Ravikant is, "You want the bear on the unicycle." So it's like you see a bear, you see a unicycle, you say, "So what?" But you see a bear riding a unicycle, and you go, "That's interesting."
Yeah.
Like I want to see what that guy's doing or that girl's doing. What I want to go to quickly is we see the highlight reels. We see all the wins, the dollars, the commas, all of that stuff. But what we don't see is like $1 billion of wins also has $1 billion of problems. So, for some, like, do you mind lifting up the hood for people to understand, like what is actually required for this level of scale and this level of success? And maybe some of the stuff that you've gone through where you're like, man, like I did not anticipate this. And this is a brand new challenge that we have completely got to expand our zone of comfort to overcome.
Yeah. A few things. A few months ago, I made, well, not me personally, but the company value of my company, of the real estate, went up by over $100 million, and then I lost it like 2 weeks later. So like the emotional roller coaster of like $100 million. I mean, really, the value dropped by several hundred million over the course of a couple of years because of where interest rates are and cap rates are. Then it went up by like 100 million and then dropped by that 100 million. Basically, the state of Texas made a law that killed something we were doing with property taxes. It's a long story. Don't worry about it. But the point being, that was something I was like the level of emotional that comes with a large business, whether it's a real estate business or something else, because there's lives at stake. I mean, there's investors that invest their money. There's employees. A lot of times we raise money from family and friends. Like I have family and friends in these deals. So that's something that I didn't, you never hear talked about. Is like that feeling, because for the last, since 2008, it's just been up. Like everything's been going better and better and better. And so all the lessons, nobody's really had a difficulty until like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago when commercial real estate just started going like that. And then it just plummeted, especially in Austin, Texas. Like Austin rents are down 30% right now. It's crazy. So if you own real estate in Austin like I do, and you own $150 million of real estate in Austin, and the rents plummet 30%, and then the values beside that plummet another 30%, and your property's worth 60% of or 40% of what you bought it for, like that's a hard hill to climb out of. And so that's been that's been the whole focus for the last year. That's why I'm living in Austin now, because I'm like, well, maybe if I'm there, I can see something, I can be more hands-on. That's why Ryan moved into the property. For a long time, I wanted to be the visionary, right? I'm not the corporate guy. I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to sit on meetings and fill out TPS reports. And I just assumed my team could figure it out. They're all really smart people. I've got 150 people. They can figure it out. But there is no substitution for a founder, is what I've learned. Like, and from the spirit of it and the energy of it, and the state and the story. Like, because ultimately, like, we're here in this room right now learning and growing, but as you start hiring staff, they're not doing that. Like, they're just not. They're not expanding their brain. They're not going to a Tony Robbins event to learn about state and how to get yourself in a different one. They're not doing that stuff. And that's the stuff that actually solves problems. And so that was a huge lesson I've learned over the last couple of years, is like, I have to be involved at a deeper level. Not forever, but like, if you think of like a military operation, if you're on the front lines of a war and you're fighting, the general is not actually on the front line with a gun, shooting the bad guy. He's in the tent in the back looking over a map, and he's strategizing, and he's kissing babies, and he's working the politics. That's what the general does. Until the enemy breaks through the line, gets in the tent, and starts shooting. That's when the general picks up a gun and has to start shooting as well. And so that's where I found myself. And if you lose your skill on how to shoot, when the enemy breaks through, you're going to be struggling. And so it's like, I guess the lesson learned was like, I should never have like let go as much as I did from a leadership standpoint. Even when you hire good people, That's no excuse for abdication. Abdication, is that the word? There's delegation and abdication. I definitely abdicated too much. So that's been a huge challenge. If you tell yourself the story that, oh, these deals are gone, that this isn't going to work out, that failure is the only way, then you then live in this state of depression, of sadness. You're like, oh yeah, everything sucks. And you never come up with good ideas in that state. And so I've really been thinking a lot about the last couple of weeks is like, I can't let my external world dictate my state. I can't let my external world dictate my story. Like I choose that. I get to pick what it is, how I want to appear to others and myself. And so now I'm like, I'm going to solve this. And not even that, like, are there any kids in the room? Like, I don't swear hardly ever, but I'm like, I'm going to fucking solve this.
Boom.
And I said,
Let's go.
Doesn't that feel different? Like that feels, I don't swear, but when I say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to fucking solve it, right?
I tingle when you say
Yeah, right. Because like that, all of a sudden, like that, there's energy and there's power behind that says like, I'm going to solve this. It's kind of man in the arena. You guys know that quote, man in the arena? Like, it's like,
oh, they know it.
yeah. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm in the arena. And you know who's like super like turned on by that? My wife, right? What I mean by that is like, she's like, oh, that's the guy that I married. Because, there's a tendency as you get wealthier. In fact, let's go biblical for a minute. Anybody read the Old Testament ever? You know the story of David and Goliath? You guys know the story of David and Bathsheba? You guys know that one? So David, for those who don't, David's the king. He had conquered all these people. He killed the giant. He killed all these people. I mean, he's dominated the whole area. He's now the man, the king. And there's this line where it says, in the spring, when kings and armies go out to war, David was at his palace. And you're like, well, isn't he the king? Well, he's not at war. His team's at war. His people are at war. He's at the palace. And he's hanging out there, and he looks out, and he sees this woman bathing on a rooftop, and he's like, I want her. And so he sends his guards, go get her. She comes back. He sleeps with her. She gets pregnant. He's like, oh, shoot. And then he's like, well, she's married, so I guess I'll just murder her husband. So he ends up murdering the husband. All of this happened not because David was poor and sad and broke or broken. It's because he was rich and successful. So in other words, there is a tendency for people, and now it could be women, could be men, could be drugs and alcohol, could be a lot of things. There is immense danger to the apathy that comes with success. There's immense danger in that. And if you're not careful, when you get success, it's just like for those of you who are maybe not where you want to be yet successful-wise, but when you get to this point where this island, this fantasy island that you're trying to get to, it's very easy to go, you know what? I made it. I deserve to just relax a little bit. I deserve to kick back a little bit.
Well, first off, y'all appreciate that story and him being open? Yeah. And second off, what a great presentation that we led the day with to go into this. We didn't have even spoken about this, and it's just perfectly hitting exactly what I talked about. Thanks, buddy.
Anytime.
Oh, all this stuff. That's why we were here. He was in my AirPod while I was talking, so I was like, please validate everything we just talked about.
Perfect.
Yeah, two things from what you just said that I wrote down. One is the difference between like generals, like a peacetime general versus a wartime general. So I got that from David Osborne. So it's just like, remember, when you're a general and you're the owner of the company, there's different seasons. And sometimes like you have to be the wartime general. And that's why most big companies are started in recessions, because you become a wartime general by default, because if you're not going to survive. So peacetime general is when everything's going great. So that's been the last 10 years, but now it's different. That's why you guys learn how to do this today. You're learning how to be wartime generals in the beginning. The other thing you said was about the state and like the external state impacting you. Have y'all heard about like the idea of thermostat versus thermometer? Yeah, so you want to be a thermostat where you set internally the temperature of the room. You don't want to be a thermometer that's reacting to the temperature of the room. You want to be the thermostat that sets the temperature of the room. And if you do that when you're with your life and you set the temperature of your life, you don't react to the external environment. Like, it's night and day different. One last question is, if you can give yourself one piece of advice as you were kind of going back to you in the beginning of this, what would that piece of advice be to get you to even more success today?
Let's see. There's a lot, but
Fine, two.
Okay, I'll give you a couple. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. in business, there's a lot of opportunities. And if you're good at business, there's a lot of opportunities. You'll start seeing it everywhere. So I tend to take the approach, and always have, is like, if there's money to be made, I should be making it there. And it only takes a couple more minutes. It's only a few more minutes. It's only one phone call. It's just one hire I got to do. It's just. And so I just build too many businesses, too many bridges, too many lanes on the bridges, because it's always just a little bit more. Because you remember that line from the movie Signs, the Mel Gibson movie, where his like brother talking about hitting home runs. He has like the home run record, but also has the most misses or most strikeouts. He said it felt wrong not to swing. And that's what I feel like. It feels wrong not to swing. Anybody else feel that way ever? Like, if there's money to be made, I'm like, it feels wrong not to go after it. So like, I don't need to have a mortgage company, but it feels wrong not to. I don't need it. Like, I'm like, Brandon Turner should have a mortgage company. It just makes sense, right? It makes sense. So that was the big one. Is I just because you can doesn't mean you should, and that's in lines of business. That's in the customers you take on, the products you have, the real estate you buy. Like, just because I could raise $500 million doesn't mean I necessarily should have. Like, if I look back on what I would do over again, I bought, we bought, I don't know, we were at probably $300 million worth of real estate when we bought our first apartment complex. And then we bought like $500 million of apartment complexes in like 6 months. Like, we just went boom like that. Why? Because I could raise the capital. Like, I was probably the best capital raiser on the planet outside of maybe Grant Cardone. Like, we figured it out. Like, we figured out how to use Facebook ads, using like high ticket sales processes. I even hired one of the best like high ticket sales that sell for like programs, like, like courses and stuff. I hired them to teach my team, and we cracked this code, and we just ramped up. You probably saw my ads 4 years ago when we were raising all this money. Just because we could doesn't mean we should have. I probably should have bought one apartment and then see how it went, and then bought a second one and see how it went, and not bought 13 right away. Because it takes time to learn. So anyway, and the other lesson is, to wrap back to the beginning of the conversation, is I should have been reading more business books than real estate books. Like, real estate books are great. I'm a real estate investor. However, the pivot there is, I had a buddy say to me recently, and he encapsulated this perfectly. He said, Brandon, you know what? Some guys buy real estate and it's fine. But the ones who really succeed build businesses that buy real estate. Those are two very different things, right? This is like E-Myth. Like, some people can bake a cake and some people can make a bakery. And those are different skill sets entirely. I focused 100% of efforts for 10 years on how to bake a cake. And I was really good at baking cakes. But that only takes you so far. You can only bake so many cakes. And so I can only buy a few houses a year. Had I been focused on business and systems and processes and people and how to hire and how to fire and KPIs and habit tracking and all of that, then I would have worked way less and made way more money along the way.
Brandon, great to meet you. And thanks, guys. This is really good. So you had mentioned building a vision so large that, some of your operators fit within. My question to you, it's a bit self-serving, and sorry to call you out on this, but like, I find myself in that role today where my size of my vision has exceeded the box that I was put in. How do you hold that person accountable for you specifically says they don't go out and do a side hustle, right? And working till 2 a.m., stuff like that. How do you react if that operator, the CEO of your company, goes out and does start acquiring real estate and effectively executing on the dream that we're all here today to execute on? I just love to hear your response to that.
Yeah, you saying like if my like team started building side hustles and all that because they outgrew it. Every one of my like executives, I think at Open Door Capital, are all running side hustles. I can't stop them. Even maybe Walker isn't. My CEO, I don't think is. I think almost all the rest of them. But honestly, that's what make Walker. That's what I support it in that. Yeah, I support it. I don't
capacity.
Yeah,
like,
what?
You support it like in a capacity.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna necessarily. Like, even yesterday, I had a call with 100 people from my tribe, and I brought on my head of property management who has a side hustle building a VA company. And I had her pitch her VA company. I don't get a piece of that. I just had her pitch it because I wanted to help her out. Now, there is risk that she will leave if that grows more successful, but I can't remember who said it. It might have been Richard Branson, but somebody asked him, well, what if you support your people and they leave? And he said, what if, what is it? What if you don't? Yeah, what if you don't support them and they don't leave?
Yeah,
if you don't treat them right, you don't want bad people stuck around and bad culture. So like, you might as well pour into them. Anyway, so bottom line is I support all of them in their side hustles. I tell them all, though, I want this to be the last job they ever have, and I really try to instill that with them. And I don't know, it's hard because you can't stop them. Entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. The biggest way around that is I stopped hiring real estate investors. Almost everybody I hired was from my community because I just post on Instagram. I get 1,000 people to apply. Great. Real estate investors are the worst employees because we're all just like, go start another business, gonna go start another thing. Don't hire entrepreneurs. Don't hire real estate investors. I hired my executive assistant, who is the world's greatest executive assistant. She's phenomenal. She had no idea who I was. Didn't know what real estate was. Didn't know anything. She found me on LinkedIn. Like she found an ad on LinkedIn. And so if I want to avoid them building side hustles, I just have to not hire people who are going to do it. But it's not a great answer, but like, you can't stop them, I think. Other than like Walker, he owns 15% of Open Door Capital. And so he should make, millions and millions and millions of dollars down the road. He'll probably make $100 million. He could not do that on his own.
So, I mean, coming from someone that does, like my entire team is side hustles and entrepreneurs, right? It's like, you have to remove the compensation. So it's like when I talk to Brandon, when I talk to Caitlin, when I talk to Estefania, they're all doing stuff. Like Brandon's got $12 million of storage and Stephanie is building her virtual assistant company. And, you have to talk to them outside of business. So it's like, what are your big goals? So if you're not meeting with your team and you're asking your team, like, hey, outside of business, like, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what's your vision? What do you want outside of money? And you're not helping them directly accomplish that, that's on you. And they're going to leave you for something that can.
Yeah. Like my head of property management, that woman I brought on the call, she pitched me a couple weeks ago. We haven't worked out the details yet, but she pitched me on starting a third-party property management company that we would then share together and we would be equal partners in it. And I'm probably going to do it. Because I'm like, well, it's not revenue I'm getting anyway. Yeah, so I might as well let her run with it.
I would love to ask you about relationships, specifically around partnerships, because a lot of people in this room, they know that this is a team sport. They want to get into business with someone else. They want help. Sometimes, from my experience, you kind of get a feeling that relationships are either going well or sometimes they're not going well. And you were talking about your partnerships with like Ryan Murdoch and giving too much equity ownership. What have you learned in terms of trusting your gut on relationships or vetting the right partnerships of who you want to be with in the long haul? And what do you do when things aren't going well? How do you have those hard conversations?
Yeah, there's been a lot of them. We've renegotiated equity at Open Door Capital 50 times probably, and every time it's awkward, every time it's weird. The good thing is like we're all friends, like in that like we actually enjoy each other, and that makes it easier, but also more awkward, right? But at some level, like none of us hate each other because of it. It is always weird. Couple thoughts on that. One thing I love about real estate that we don't get in other businesses is real estate. You can renegotiate equity every deal, right? Like for example, Open Door Capital, every fund is a new opportunity to renegotiate equity or lose people or gain people. And that's both a pro and a con. It means we have to do equity conversations over and over. But at the same time, like right now, like one of my business partners is backing, like he's like, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm pretty happy with where we're at. And I'm like, great. He's just going forward, future deals, he's just not on there anymore. So that's a lot easier to deal with. But when it comes to like removing people, it's just super awkward. But almost everybody nobody's ever given me a hard time about it in those conversations. In fact, if anything, they usually come to me as like, hey, we need to retalk this. Like, I'm not doing the work anymore. Like, that's usually what it has ended up being. The other piece is like, I have generally spent more time picking out my breakfast cereal than I do deciding equity on real estate giant real estate multi-million-dollar deals, which is stupid. So if you're going to go down that route of partnerships and equity, like have lawyers, sit down with them, talk about the stuff. Really, like it's a big decision, and there's a lot of little factors that go into that. And so, yeah, treat it with the gravity. I wish I would have treated it with the gravity that it deserves.
Frosted Flakes.
Yeah. Frosted Flakes and 30%. We're good. Move on with the day. Now, when I think about why that is, because I don't like awkward conversations. I don't like confrontation. And so I would rather just give people what they want or give them more than they deserve because it avoids awkward conversation, and I don't want to have that. And that's an internal thing. I got to fix that, and I know that. And so then I'm there's ways around that, like having third parties come in. Like it's stupid. Like you brought up, David Osborne. Like I have David's phone number. David likes me a lot. Half the GoBundance members are there because I brought them in. David not owes me, but like I could get on a call with David right now. David has given equity to hundreds of people in dozens of companies.
You never asked.
Did I ever once ask David?
Didn't ask him one.
Now, one time did I ask, I could have been like, hey, can I get 5 minutes to pick your brain on this? What should I do here? He would have given me really good advice. And it was my ego that didn't allow me to have that conversation with him. So I should have done that.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So we're to the point where kind of looking for a walker. Do you think that it starts with building a vision that's big enough to attract that and letting that be a magnet, or is it more about active recruitment from there? And then a follow-up, how do you decide when it's time to give equity versus like aligned incentive compensation?
Yeah, good questions. I do believe it starts with a vision. Like really, like this is where we're going. I mean, any executive worth their salt is going to want that and need that, or else they're never going to come on board. Like if you attracted somebody without a big vision, they're not the right person. Like those people want to see where we're going, and they want to be told this is the destination, but they don't want to be told how to get there. They just want to be like, hey, we're taking France. Okay, let's go. And then they're going to figure out how to get there. But if you're like, hey, we're just going to build this and see where it goes, you're going to get people like, okay, cool. But like most people are, it always shocks me because I'm a visionary that most people are actually not good at that. Like for me, it's just like second nature. Yeah, I see a 10-year picture of every business I've ever thought about, and it's perfect and it's going to happen. But most people don't have that. And I'm wrong, of course, most of the time. But like it's very clear to me where we're headed in every business. And I think they need that. So one, it starts with a very strong vision. And then as for like equity, I would prefer in general to give as little as possible all the time, right? Because that's the most expensive thing you can do. That said, the best people will never work without it, almost never. And maybe you can get people with other maybe equity, maybe like a performance-based pay, maybe. And that's fine, depends on what the role is. But like an executive, it would be really, really hard to get a good CEO that doesn't have that buy-in, that equity. I would definitely put more vesting on it. That's one thing I know.
Clawbacks.
Yeah, like with Open Door Capital, like this was a huge mistake. I would give people equity in the deal, and the day we buy the deal, they've got their equity locked in. They could leave the next day. Well, anybody who's in real estate, I know we say you make your money when you buy. That's not really true. You make your money by running a successful business plan over the course of 5 to 10 years. So why would they get their equity locked in day one when actually that doesn't make a difference? What makes a difference is you stick around. So I would have done vesting with every single deal and really aligned our interests together better. But in my other companies, like my education companies, I don't give equity right now. It's just profit sharing. But I probably will at some point. That's like they got to kind of earn that. And even then, it won't be equity. It'll be options probably. And that way, options are a little easier from a tax standpoint to dish out and take back and all that.
Like I said, I live in Austin. I have a coaching business. I coach on mindset and life coaching. And I'm curious. I work with a lot of my clients on, how do you balance the joy in your life as you're chasing big things? We all in here want a lot of success, and we have huge achievements that we're striving for. So for you in, your long history of achieving a lot, how have you both succeeded and failed at enjoying the journey, finding the joy along the ride as you've continued to chase bigger and bigger dreams?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Yeah, joy is hard for me. Like I'll be honest, like joy is hard for me. I'm not like one of my buddies calls it a we person. You're not a we person. In other words, like wee, like fun. Like I'm like if there's a group of people that are like we should go like drive 4-wheelers up in the desert, I'd be like, is there like a tent in the back that we can drink and like talk? Like that's where I want to be, is like with like 3 dudes in the back talking about politics and business. That's we for me. So. And I've just learned that's just my personality. Like I just don't get a thrill, and so that's why I like the word joy. I'm glad you said joy, not just like excitement, happiness, whatever. Because I do get joy out of a glass of whiskey with 3 smart dudes, or dudes or ladies. We'll say dudes is encompassing everybody, but 3 or 4 smart dudes with some whiskey or good tequila and like late night conversation until 2 a.m. Like that is joy for me. And so I've learned to recognize what actually brings me joy is not what brings a lot of other people joy. And so I've like, okay, what is my joy? Where is it at? And then I just habit track it. So I'm a meticulous habit tracker. Anybody track their habits every day? Guys do that. This is like the most game-changing thing that
Pick it up.
Yeah, it changed my life. Like literally takes like 30 seconds. I have a list of 12 habits that I'm tracking every day. Every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I run down my list. Yesterday, did I do it? Check. Or did I not do it? Dash. So I'm just like check, dash, check, dash. 30 seconds is all it takes. But one of those is always a joy type activity. Like one of my habits is something, did I have time with my buddies, I think is what it says right now. It's like time with buddies. Did I have time with my buddies? That could be playing a sport, could be sipping whiskey, could be whatever. Did I have that time? And then I set a number. I set a goal for all of my habits. How many times in the week do I want to do it? So it'd be like, whatever, going to the gym 3 times, getting 10,000 steps 5 times, date with my wife 3 times, one-on-one time with the kids 4 times, whatever, right? And they're business, personal, all of it. But one of them is always like a joy, something that brings me joy. And then I can gamify my life. I can literally just gamify my whole life. What I mean by that is at the end of the week, I have a score, right? If I said I was going to go to the gym 3 times and I went 2 times, I'm 2 out of 3. And then if I said I was going to go on 3 dates with my wife and I went on 1, I'm 1 out of 3. If I said I was going to get 10,000 steps 5 times and I did it 6, I'm 6 out of 5. Add that all up. What's a perfect week? What's a great week? It's a score of 43. What did I get? A 40. Okay. A 40 out of 43, that's like an A. I did a pretty good week. But if I got a 12 out of 40, something, that's a bigger problem. And so next week, I'm going to try to do better. I'm going to try to beat my score. And then the week after that, I'm going to try to beat my score. I'm trying to get better and better. So I'm gamifying the actions in my life that bring me fulfillment, joy, wealth, success in my marriage, success in my business, etc. So while I'm tracking it, right? We all know in business, what you measure improves. I measure the things that matter in my life. So that was a long answer to a short question, but yeah, the things that bring me joy would be like that, like hanging out with buddies. And if I'm tracking it, I do a good job of it. If I'm not tracking it, I just fall quickly off that, and I'll be like, wow, I haven't had any fun in months. Super important though.
So mine's more of a technical question. Curious, especially today, obviously there's a ton of noise in the market, specifically real estate, hospitality. For a single syndication, you kind of have to sell the story more, but curious more with like from a fund perspective, how do you weigh the external factors? So, if you have a deal that's like, hey, it's 14% IRR, but there's all these great jobs and this growth that we intend that's going to be coming, we don't guarantee that that's going to convert versus underwriting on actual numbers. Like obviously if, a city's falling apart and they're losing a bunch of jobs, you have to weigh that in on the downside. How, I guess, if at all, do you weigh those external factors and how do you justify that, especially with kind of a multi-syndication fund? You don't really buy them in on the story. You kind of have sole discretion. So I'm just curious, how do you handle that and kind of take those into account?
Yeah, I'll see if I can address that. I mean, that's obviously hard to do all that. And I love that you brought up the story. Like the reason I can raise a lot of capital is because I'm pretty good at storytelling when it comes to like raising capital, and like I can paint the vision very well, pretty well. We use something. This gets kind of technical, and I don't know if this is exactly where you were thinking I was going to go with this, but a sensitivity matrix. I love those. So a sensitivity matrix would be like, if this happens, this would be like the low case, base case, best case of like IRRs, let's say, or like what cap rates are going to be and what NOI is going to be. I think it's a little complex for non-real estate people, but basically like how much profit am I making? What kind of multiple can I get for it? This shows me 9 different possibility situations that this deal is. And we'll do one of those, but it might be 10 things across and 10 things down. It's like, here's a wide variety of things that could happen. And so we will say like, if we create one of those, obviously we're all shooting for the best case, but if it's worst case, is that still okay? And if worst case is generally like a break even, then I would say, yeah, that's great then. It's probably not going to be worst case. Now that said, 3-4 years ago, we did that. And then everything is worst case times double, right? Like rents dropped 30%, cap rates doubled, like all the things you would never expect got way worse. And so sometimes that still happens, and that's just life. So I love sensitivity matrices when doing that. One thing I learned from, to go back to the story earlier, a couple of years ago, I was struggling with raising some capital. And this is how I got better at storytelling with raising capital. I was struggling with it, and we needed to raise a bunch. And my buddy's like, well, Ken McElroy is like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's like his like right-hand guy. He wrote the ABCs of real estate. Ken's like the godfather of raising money for real estate. He's the GOAT. And Ken happens to vacation in the same town that I vacation in every summer, every July. That we're both there at the same time. So I'm complaining to my buddy. I'm like, yeah, I'm really struggling with this raising money thing. I'm not sure what to do. He goes, have you called Ken? And same thing with the David Osborne thing. I was like, no. He's like, don't be an idiot. Call Ken and just ask him. So I called Ken. I'm like, hey, can you get coffee with me? He's like, yeah, let's go do it, man. So we go to coffee. And Ken's like, here's the problem, Brandon. He's like, you're just too complex. He's like, you got an 80-page like document. You send people 400 spreadsheets. He's like, nobody gives a shit about that. That's what he said. He's like, nobody gives a shit about that. He's like, here's how I raise money. He's like, I get a whiteboard and I draw a picture of a house, stick figure house. And he says, he's like, I record this on my phone. I go, we're going to buy this apartment complex and we're going to do this to it. And he puts a couple chimneys on it. We're going to fix it up. And then we think it's worth this much, 25 million today. We think it can be worth 40 million. And that difference, half that goes to you, half that goes to us. Done. He's like, 5 minutes, stick figure drawing. And he's like, you'll never have a problem raising capital again. And that was such life-changing advice for me. I took it. Now we do both. We have a fancy spreadsheet. We have all the stuff. But now I do whiteboard stuff. And it's all about storytelling because the confused mind doesn't buy. So when you make it real simple, this is what it is. This is what we're going to buy. This is what we're going to do. And it changes that. So there is that. The last piece is I just tell people, and I wish I did more of this, and I'm going to do more of it going forward, is just tell people there is risk, like really know that there's risk in this. Like you cannot predict everything, especially in the world of AI. Like we can't see over the 5-year horizon anymore. I'm actually pretty freaked out about like just real estate and all business in general because like you just can't see 5 years in the future anymore. And so letting people know like this is risky. I don't know what to do. Like I don't know what the future holds. I just know that we're a really good jockey. Like we don't know what the horse is going to do. Horse is going to bounce all over the place. Horse might get a broken leg, but we're a good jockey. And I think that's the lesson I'm trying to instill in my investors right now is I do a ton of webinars. We give a ton of information. I moved to Texas. So that way at the end of this, whether I lose a property or not, whether we lose people's money or not, I want those people to look back and say like, Brandon was a good jockey, even though the horse got shot. Like the horse was crappy, but you know, Brandon was a good jockey. So I'll invest with him again. And so
I moved to Austin for me.
And you. Oh.
Hi. Thank you for taking the time and energy. You talked a little bit earlier about how constraints can help you work smarter, not harder. Has there ever been a time where you felt like you had too many constraints or a time where you recognized that maybe a constraint was like holding you back instead of helping you forward?
Good question. Yeah, and it's usually because of too many bridges. So the other day I actually did a practice. Anybody ever done like an ideal schedule? This is such a great practice. So you sit down with a spreadsheet and like fill out what's your ideal? Do you guys do this in the group? Is that like a thing you guys do? A lot of you are nodding your head like you've done this. Okay, it's such a great practice. Like here's like the ideal schedule for me. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I did that a couple of weeks ago. And then I color coded it on like, is this family time, which, you know, surrounds the edges, the weekends and the mornings and the evenings. And then I was like, this is for my mortgage company. This is for my Better Life Tribe. This is for First Deal. This is for Open Door Capital. This is for my personal brand. This is for personal health stuff. And like at the end of that ideal schedule, I couldn't fit it all in. It just, there was no room for it. And I was like, and you know, like I like to think that it's, you know, there's always room to fit everything in. You gotta be more effective. And I'm like, no, I literally cannot be more effective or efficient with my time. It is a problem. I've just taken on too much. So I have too many things. So the constraint of like, I've got 30 minutes for a meeting with my CEO of $1 billion like company, like a $1 billion fund. I'm like, that's stupid. Like I need more than 30 minutes once a week with Walker. And so in that way, the constraints are hurting me. And that, what does that tell me? It means I'm doing too many things. I got to burn some bridges. That's why I'm shutting down a couple of them right now. And I'm kind of setting a couple of them aside. Like, you know, you don't have to necessarily even shut down a company. Like you can just spin plates, like let them just go for a while. So I don't know. That happens to me every about a year and a half, I feel like, where like I just pick up too many things and then I just got to like disappoint a bunch of people and shut things down and lay people off. And then I always feel terrible. And then it's like, it just happens again. It's just this thing. But I think that is just the rhythm of an entrepreneur. And I don't know if there's any other way around that.
I got so much value out of I don't know how to manage rental properties and all of that, just followed it. I still use some of the documents. I got a little download file. But I wanted to ask you about AI since you brought it up and just kind of where you see some of the biggest risks in real estate and how you think that might could negatively impact from that perspective, but then also like where you see that there might be benefits moving forward. And also, how are you using it?
Yeah. You guys want to have a depressing talk? You want to know my depressing thoughts on real AI and real estate? Okay. I'll start with this. I might be totally off on this, but here's what freaks me out. And there's a redeeming at the end of this. I'll come back to something that's happy. But what is the value of real estate based on? Supply, demand, and the cost of like materials, really, right? Like land is valued on supply and demand for the most part, and building is based on labor and materials. That's how we value real estate. That's why it goes up over time. It has always gone up over time. I mean, yes, there's little glitches in it, but like generally speaking, there's never been a period of time in America where 10 years in the future, it wasn't worth more than it is in any, every 10-year period, it's always worth more. Always. That no longer exists, that mentality. So the idea of long-term real estate, I'm going to hold it for 30 years. This is the first time in human history that premise no longer exists. That worries me. I'm not saying we shouldn't buy real estate. We should. I think we're in a very, very important window to do it right now because it won't be here in 10 years. Here's why. Here's my argument. I'd love to have somebody like tell me why I'm wrong on this. When a robot can drywall and paint, how far away are we from that, do you think? From a Tesla robot being able to drywall? 5 years, maybe more, 10 maybe?
Well, I think 5 or less.
3?
I think 5 or less.
Does anybody think 100 years? Like, it's going to take that long? No. We all know what's coming. 5 is the most common number I hear. I think it's probably about 5. When a Tesla robot can drywall and pick up a 2x4 and nail it and do that work, the cost of building a house, labor, drops dramatically, right?
Modular.
What?
The modular.
And modular stuff, yeah, right. When it's coming down fast. Material, well, what's material prices based on? Labor. Material is based on labor, right? Like everything's free. It's just we have to pay people to get it or make it. So all material is based on labor. Well, labor, again, if a robot can drywall, or plumb, which is like the hardest thing, when a robot can do plumbing, everything else fell before that, which means materials are now worth nothing. Furthermore, the cost of land, which is supply and demand driven, is we have a declining population, and we have cities that are going to be able to expand. This is actually an interesting point. If this is 100 square miles right here, like let's say that's a city, it's 100 square miles. What is this? Just a little bit more. It's like 200 square miles, right? Because this outer area is a lot more area, if you're into geometry, than the inside, right? So a small expansion of a city going out 10 miles dramatically increases the amount of available land. But 10 to 15 years from now, and it might be 20, right? I don't think it's 5. I think it's 10, 15 years from now. Real estate will be like $100,000. Well, what does that do to rents? If you can build and own a house for $100,000, rents are $300 a month. Okay, well, that's a problem if you were getting a 30-year fixed mortgage, hoping that rents were going to be at $1,500 for the next 30 years, and your entire retirement is based upon that. That's what's freaking me out right now, is that I don't think we can rely on long-term real estate anymore as a solution. Short term, though, the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have the best opportunity to become a millionaire that we've seen in our entire lives. Because we've got a housing shortage already, and it's going to get so much worse in 2 years from now because they just have not built anything. I mean, all this stuff being coming online right now, they started 5 years ago, but the new permits, the new construction, nothing's happening because of interest rates. We already have a housing, like not enough of it. So 2 years from now, all the big guys are saying this. Ken McElroy says this. All these guys are saying that. It's going to be massive, and we're going to have rents go like this. It's time to get in, make our money, and then get out about 10 years from now. And the signal is when a robot can plumb and drywall, that's when I run. And I dump everything I've got probably into the S&P 500 because I think those are the businesses that are going to survive. It's Google, Apple. It's the ones that own AI are going to survive. And then we have to figure out what to do with ourselves because that's a whole deeper problem. What do we do when nobody has to work anymore?
Plot twist. Trying to see that answer coming.
So the good news is now is the best time to buy real estate. Right now, it's going to be awesome. Prices are down. Interest rates are dropping. There's a lag where like interest rates will start coming down before it gets super popular again. So we're going to have like 2-3 years from this point forward where I think real estate's going to work really, really well. I think you can hold it for a few more years after that, but then maybe just don't plan on 30 years retiring on your rental income.
Cool.
That's hard to say. I'm the guy that wrote the book. It's like,
yeah.
But 30 years from now, things are going to be completely different.
I think so.
Thanks again for being here. My question is around
The time that we were sharing where you're like your team started getting more equity in the company. So quick context, I'm at a point where my company's growing pretty fast. We're starting to get better at sharing the vision of our team. And so now I have the challenge of we're a small team, like 9 of us total. People saying, employees I know that they all say they want more opportunities for elevated positions. But I know I'm going to have to identify just a couple of key players to do that. And so how would you approach elevating those a couple of key players without really killing the morale of those that won't end up getting those positions?
I would build. Do you have a really clear future org chart? Like, if you have that clear future org chart, it's like these are the roles that have, you don't have to tell people they have equity, but like these are the executive roles or whatever, and this is, CEO, COO, VPs, whatever, and you got that very clear chart. I think that even if people don't get it, they still know that it's possible because nobody stays at a job forever. So I don't know if it's demotivating for somebody to not get that higher level job, like the executive job that they might want or whatever, that high level job. And if you're not, you're not telling everybody, oh yeah, this person gets equity. Sorry, you guys don't. And so you're not going to have the morale hit there. I don't know. Okay, 2 thoughts. I don't know if it's going to be a big deal for those people necessarily because they still have the hope of getting it later, next year or whatever. But 2, if they didn't get it, if they're not good enough to get that spot, does it really matter if they leave because of it? For me, the bigger constraint is, I don't know you and your personality, but for me, it's more like I feel bad for those people. My empathy is like, oh, I feel so bad. I don't want them to be mad at me. And that's where I think I've given more equity away to people because I didn't want them to be mad than because they deserved it. And that's a terrible reason to give away equity.
Just throw them a pizza party.
Yeah, there you go. Hawaiian shirt Fridays. That's all you got to do. And everyone's happy with that. Just wear a Hawaiian shirt if you want to.
Hey guys, by the way, Mark got it.
So my wife and I's top 2 rules for us in our relationship when it comes to me kind of running my business is 1, our reputation is the only thing that matters in business. And then number 2, we'll only do a deal if we can sleep comfortably at night. Brian knows this, but I have a challenge now that I'm raising money from a lot of people to get on social media, to be able to pour gas on it, to let really take off. My fear is that things have been going very well for me, and I haven't had a stumble yet. Getting on social media when things don't go well, having to answer to investors, as you had mentioned, just scares the absolute hell out of me and is keeping my training wheels on. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, I have this dick. Maybe he's in this room. Hopefully not. This is like just complete douchebag who, like, every time I post on social media, he'll go and comment on my stuff. Don't invest with Brandon Turner. He'll lose all your money the way he lost all mine. I've never lost anybody's money ever. I look in this guy's deal. He's in one of our better deals. Like, he's in a great fund that's still paying out. Everything's fine. There's no reason for him to be a dick. I just must have hurt his feelings at a conference at some point or something, or just didn't shake his hand when he thought I was going to. Something weird I got there. And it's just it's a type, but I get that a lot too. If you go into the Reddit threads, I don't look at them, but there's apparently just Reddit threads about me that are just terrible. Like, Brandon's going to lose all your money. He's a terrible operator, doesn't know what he's doing. It sucks. But it's also, it's been the most growth I've had in a decade, internal growth, because I have to face the thing that I don't want more than anything else is I want people to like me. I really want that. So then the question is, do I care more about losing people's money or having people talk bad about me? And what I mean by that is when I get really sad and like, oh man, if I lost a deal or if one of these deals went south and I couldn't do it, am I more sad that I lose people's money or that they're just going to be mad at me online? And I'm like, it's probably that they're going to be mad at me online. And I'm like, oh, there's something broken in here. And I need to fix that. Or at least now I know that it's there in a strong way. So I guess what I'm trying to get at there is there's a lot of growth to be had there. And like you even said, you're scared to death of that. Like it's scary. Like if you do something and you stumble, it becomes public. That said, I have called dozens of my investors and talked to them. I've never had one person yell at me, cuss me out, even say anything negative. Everyone's been supportive. Everyone's been kind. Because they know my heart, I think. I had a guy one time, pat myself on the back, but he said, I invested in Open Door Capital because of how you talk about your wife. And I was the point of they like me. They just like me. And if things go right, they like me. If things go wrong, they still generally like me. And if they don't like me, that's their problem. That's not my problem. And that's the growth that I've had. That said, the idea of like going on social media, it can be a scary thing. Just the pivot I would make there, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's like, how many people are you keeping stuck in their current life that they're not happy with because of your unwillingness to be to confront those inner demons? You know what I mean? Like, there's other people that like, imagine if I had never got out there and talked about real estate, like how many people would not be here today or not be in real estate or be financially free? Even though I was scared to post my first YouTube video and scared to post on social media, and it's super cringy to post, and it feels super awkward. It's like you start hearing people about changing lives and seeing the result of it. And it's like, oh yeah, that was worth the cringe. That was worth the risk. So I just encourage you with that, is like, you will change people's lives for the better by putting yourself out there and doing it, and you won't if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good one. It's the same reason why we haven't done paid ads, honestly, because I would just like see every single ad and I'm like, oh my God, like every single person's like cringe, like scam. That's my big thing, is scam.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you could do this perfectly well, and it's like, oh, scam, like I'm in the Reddit threads too. Like, and we have had success.
What I've learned is just like, I can't heal that part of me yet. Maybe I need some ayahuasca or something, but like I can't heal that part of me that doesn't like get so sad when I read negative things about me online. And that's fine. So I've just learned to like I've just built systems around that so I don't have to deal with it. Yeah, I don't look at it. Like I said, I've never read the Reddit threads. I know there's a lot of them about me on Reddit. I just don't read them. And I don't read the comments on my whatever. Once in a while, my wife will tell me, she's like, this ad had a bunch of like whatever things that are just complete lies. And then I'll send them to my team and I'm like, will you guys deal with this? But I don't want to deal with it.
It's Hormozy spoke with Dean Graziosi, the other Tony Robbins guy, and Dean said, okay, cool. Well, for the impact that you want to have, like what are you willing to sacrifice for the impact that you want to have? So if you want to have a large impact, and that's what I have to go with right now, is because like now I'm growing my following, and it's just like, dude, like sometimes it just really sucks. Like you have 100,000 people that are just telling you your shit, and I got like death threats. Like, why would I get death threats? Like, I get death threats, dude, for talking about like financial freedom. Like, I'm like, dude, I just want to travel. Like, I just want you to travel and like hug your wife. Like, and they're like, dude, I hope you die in a fire. I'm like, but he said, okay, what are you willing to give up, sacrifice for the impact that you want to have? And so, like you said, if you're going to reach 1 million people, you're going to reach like at least 50 assholes.
Hey, Brian, thanks for your time, man. Amazing beard, by the way. I had not about half as long as yours, but yours is fire, so keep that going.
Oh, thank you, man.
But
it won't grow anymore. It's stuck right here. So it's been here for years. I can't get it.
You talked a little bit about your family life, your children and your wife, with all these different businesses, all these different paths that you've gone. What's been the biggest challenge with navigating entrepreneurship, with being an amazing father and husband?
Yeah. I travel a lot. Like, actually, I'll tell a quick story. I don't think he'd mind me telling this. I ran into Ken McElroy again a few weeks ago up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. That's where he vacations. I did. And once again, I was like, hey, you want to go to coffee? And he's like, let's do it. So we went to coffee. And I wanted to kind of pick his brain and ask about some of the deals we're doing on Open Door Capital. And we talked about the deals for a little bit. We talked about the numbers and the math, and I gave him my ideas on what I'm going to do. And he gave some good feedback. And then he shifted the conversation, and he said this. He started naming off names. And it was like guys from the 90s and 2000s that you'd recognize their names, like both real estate influencers, but also guys like Tony Robbins and others. And he was just naming one after another after another. He just named like 20 names. He had this guy. He goes, Brandon. And there are a lot of real estate syndicators, a lot of real estate educators, a lot of authors. He goes, none of them made it with their family intact. None of them. And he goes, I didn't either. Like him. He's like, I didn't either. Tony didn't either. None of them made it with their family intact. Meaning divorce and kids and all of them. And he goes, this industry is not conducive to having a good family life. And he goes, if you want different, you're gonna have to do something different. That was such a great message. Like that will sit with me for the rest of my life. I went home and I cried. Like I talked to my wife and I was like, this is what Ken said. And it was the first time I was aware. I was like, oh, I'm in an industry that has a 0% success rate of surviving a marriage. So what are we going to do different? That's what I told my wife. I was like, what are we going to do different? But we've been, I don't say we were on the verge of divorce necessarily, but we've had some real hard times. It's always in periods where I travel a lot, because that's what I do. I raise capital. I go speak at conferences. I'm here. I'm doing things that take a lot of time. And those are always the moments that were the most distant and that the kids miss me the most. And so what I did for my wife last year, at the very end of 2020, what are we, 2025 right now? So it was the end of 2023 for Christmas. I gave her the only Christmas present I gave my wife was a piece of paper that said, I will only be gone. It had 12 boxes. And it said, I'll be gone 12 days this year. The year before, I was gone over 100 days. I said, 12 is my number. That's the only, I'll be away from the family 12 days. Other than that, you're coming with me. And I almost held to it. It was at the very end of the year, like December. It was like we did 13 days, and that was only because she backed out the last second. So it's her fault. But like that was, I think to this day, it's still her favorite present I've ever given ever. Because you've heard that quote, right? Kids spell love, Time. Like that's how kids and my wife spells love is time. So that's been a big one. And then I still struggle with that because I love this stuff. Like here I am right now. I love this. I love coming out place. I love traveling. And it's hard when you have little kids to travel, especially. I got a little 10-month-old now. It's really tough. So how do I balance those two things together? Well, one thing I was sitting in Cabo, we're Cancun right now, right? Yeah. So Cabo, that's mix those.
He texted me yesterday. He's like, "Okay, I'm landing in Cabo tomorrow."
Yeah, I don't. And he's like, "That's great, but we're in Cancun." And I was like, same thing. So I was in the other Mexican Sea, whatever, Cabo, and I was there for like a week for a big conference that I was there for, and it was great and it was awesome. But I miss my family so much, and they miss me, and and then I remembered like this little thing that like I'm rich, like I'm rich, and when you have money, that can be like when you have a problem that money can solve. When you have money, you don't have a problem, right? So I call my wife and I'm like, "Why are you not here?" She said, "Because I don't want to be stuck." And she's like, "We talked about this. I don't want to be stuck in a hotel room all day while you're off there." I was like, "We're rich. What if you weren't stuck in a hotel room? What if you rented like a sick house? And what if we brought with your parents and my parents and a nanny and a cook and a chef? And what if we flew private down here?" And I'm like, "Let's go extreme. Like, would that still be a crappy thing?" She's like, "No, it'd be amazing." I'm like, "Okay, well, why don't we figure out what would make it amazing every time we travel?" And so she's like, "I love that. Let's figure that out." This one was already scheduled and she didn't want to come, but that's why literally though I'm going back tomorrow. Like I'm here one night. Like I miss one night out of my thing. So anyway, that's a long answer to the thing is it's priority, right? Is I recognize it. I think the reason that most people lose their families in the process of building a real estate business or any business, I mean it's not just real estate, it's all just business, is because they just don't look up enough to look around and be like, well, how does my wife actually feel? How do my kids actually feel? Or they feel like they're doing it for the family, but the kids don't care. Like your spouse doesn't care. So that's been a big piece of it.
Beautiful.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, guys, we're going to end it. So everybody stand up. Round of applause for Mr. Bryant.
Thank you.